What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA Wise Stream. It is Thursday, December 5th, 2019. CK013 here. For those of you that don't know, you can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I'm joined by the GOAT, the true OG of the WiseTake Nation, Mr. Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, quick shout out to you on a pretty solid night last night, man. I know it had to feel good, man, but we always say it only takes one. And you were going to have a good night regardless. But it was just that one that made it a great night, man. So shout out to you, Paulie.
Yeah. Was honestly not struggling because I'm doing better this MA season than the past, and MME is certainly a easier way to manage your bankroll. But seeing the success you were having and MG, I was starting to be what is wrong with me? What am I doing? And I really didn't think I was doing much wrong. So it was nice to kind of get that confidence boost, the reassurance. It's it's only been 7 weeks of the season, and it's a variant sport, and your time will come, and hopefully it's the beginning of a heater, which is kind of how I've rolled always in DFS. I either very hot or very cold. So you may want to pay attention for the next few days. I may be hot. I don't know, but I might.
Maybe.
We'll see.
How does he do it?
How do I do it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Real quick, those of you watching us on YouTube, welcome. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the notifications bell so you'll be notified whenever we do put content out. We do all kinds of free DFS stuff. And we constantly think of ways to give out more. So make sure you subscribe and like the video, guys. Those of you watching, please like the video. The likes allow us to continue to do stuff like this for free for the YouTube Nation. So if you could all like the video, it goes a long way. Much appreciated. With that said, Paulie, 4-game slate, pretty solid. We've had some pretty good success this year on these smaller slates, not too small, but the 4-game slate's kind of been almost a bread and butter number for us. What are your overall thoughts going into tonight's slate?
There's a couple pieces of news on not superstar players, but significant pieces to the slate that we're waiting on that could sway things. Overall, we have 2 super attractive games, in my opinion, and 2 games that, are definitely at risk of being blowouts. However, one of those, the Philly-Washington game, could, if it stayed close, be the best game on the slate. And with only 4 games, it just makes sense to kind of get exposure to all the possible game flows with, if you're doing 50 or more teams, you should be able to kind of cover all those bases. And if the, less popular, flows happen, you have a better chance of winning with those. But, there's going to be a couple guys, I think, that are going to be clear chalk. And, I don't think you need to get over the field on any of the super popular plays at the moment. If some value stuff opens up, maybe. But right now, I think it's balanced in terms of exposure. I don't think, there's any reason to get more Booker than a Drew Holiday, but I think you should have both. And, them two you should have together in some spots because, I think you're going to want to pick out the right game more so than the right group of players tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, injury news is going to have a big impact on the ownership tonight, as it should. And with that said, with or without the injury news, unless there's something surprising that pops up, it's already setting up for another balanced type of day, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's almost always, you just find a way to get a stars and scrubsy. But on DraftKings, it's setting up for another one of those balanced days. It seems like you got James Harden, who's 12K. You don't have a ton of value to make him comfortably work across multiple teams. And on top of that, you have a ton of dudes in the mid-tier who are all priced pretty low. So it's an interesting slate, man. That, and then seeing how the injury card plays. Washington is a team we're waiting on some significant injury news. Mo Wagner, we know, is questionable with an ankle sprain. We found out Jordan McRae, they lost him. He had to get surgery on his finger. So, again, that's the type of unexpected stuff that we're kind of waiting for. Marcus Morris is questionable. Elfrid Payton, questionable. We got Daniel House, Derek Favors, is questionable. He's been away from the team with dealing with the death of his mother, unfortunately. Kenrich Williams, like there's just so many guys. Baines is doubtful. Like for a small slate like this, there's a lot of injury stuff we're waiting for. And the Mo Wagner one we should have because it's the first game of the night, and I think that's going to have a big dictation on ownership. The difference of him being chalk or Hachimura or even Bertans, although they should be popular anyway. But we're talking about the difference of guys being like 40% or 60% maybe in a situation like this. Should be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go game by game since it's only 4 games. We'll just do the game by game route.
Okay.
We will start off with this Philadelphia Washington game. Sixers at Washington. Line opened up -6.5 up to -7.5. Total opened up at 234. It's up to 235. Paulie D, what do you like in this game? We'll talk about the Sixers side first.
Okay. I mean, as a whole, I'm certainly concerned about this game blowing out. Like, even if Thomas Bryant was there, they have significant size and skill advantage over Washington. Right? You take Thomas Bryant out, and they just have massive size advantage. So they should, control the rebounds, control the paint, block a ton of shots. Like, the Philly side is certainly attractive. Washington plays super fast, so again, paced way up. The main concern is, do they play long enough to make their values at their prices for guys like Embiid and Ben Simmons? So, I think if I was building like one lineup today, I'd be more inclined to play the mid-tier guys of Philly or the value guys. Because if you put a gun to my head, I would say they blow this game out. Like, I just find it hard. I'm surprised the line is where it is. I thought it was going to be 14, 15. So maybe I'm a little off. Maybe the game will be closer. And Brad Beal can keep games close that you don't think the Wizards will. So I think when you play some of the studs from Philly, you're going to want to pair them with a handful of Washington guys, because I just don't see like Embiid getting 65, 70 unless the game's close, and that would mean most of the Washington guys do well. So from Philly, Embiid's just in an absolute smash spot. If Mo Wagner's in, he's the biggest, point of resistance. He's, drawn fouls, put like Cat in foul trouble one game. Like, he's known to take charges and be a little pesky. But if he's out as well, they have no size whatsoever. And Embiid should do whatever he wants. To a lesser degree, you could say similar about Al Horford, who's, underpriced for regardless of the matchup. And the way that he's been playing with this team, he's like a triple-double threat at all times. Then Ben Simmons has a massive size advantage over any one of those small guards that Washington has. He should do very well. He should push for a triple-double, and it's all just really comes down to whether they get enough minutes, if they get those last rotations. I also like some of the value plays on Washington, like James Ennis. He's just been playing great since returning from injury, and I think this is a really good Tybull spot. Like, they clearly like him. They give him minutes, and it's for his defensive prowess. Like, him and Ben Simmons are forming like one of these better, backcourt defensive combos. And Philly's like one of the best defensive teams in basketball this year. And, Tybull's earning his minutes through D. And this could be a spot where he gets 3 blocks, 2 steals. Like, we've seen him have a few of those games. And then through being on the court, he'll get a few rebounds and points and whatnot. So I do have interest in both Enos and Matisse Thybulle from Philly.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. The question is, how long does this game stay close? Whether Wagner plays or not, Washington's already not that great of a team. Now you just took away a few key players, and their best big Thomas Bryant on top of that. It just seems tough. Philly's one of the best defensive teams in the league. They've been playing a lot slower. My instinct is to just like lean more on the Philly side towards Tobias Harris and Al Horford, at least on DraftKings. Maybe not so much on FanDuel because they're a little bit more expensive, but I think they're both fairly priced over here, and it is a pace-up spot. It is a really good matchup in general for all these guys. I tend to like Tobias and Horford more, and then I like Embiid is a guy that like you obviously want exposure to because it's a smash spot. The only problem with Embiid is again with his price being so high. If the game gets out of hand, how likely is he to give you a 6x or better return on that price, opposed to Horford and Tobias doing it? So same situation with Simmons. Simmons is a little bit more expensive than those two. It's the same situation with him. I don't think I mean, who is going to guard Ben Simmons? Like Isaiah Thomas, I guess you could put on if they decide to start for Furkan Korkmaz again. I guess you start off with IT2 on him, but it's going to be a long night for these guys. But yeah, so that's how I'm approaching Philly. I'm going to grab some Embiid for sure, but I think I'm a little more interested in the guys that don't need to necessarily play 35 minutes to give you the 6x. And I'll sprinkle in some Simmons as well. And the value guys I'm cool with. Like James Enos is probably one of my favorite value plays right now. I'm hoping something else opens, but he's gotten 27 minutes in the 2 games Richardson's been out, the last 2 anyway. He's like a veteran in comparison to these like Tybull and Korkmaz. They seem to prefer him on the court for a good chunk. So I'm assuming he's going to get 25 to 27 again, and he projects well at his price. So Enos is a value play I do like quite a bit. With that said, talk to me about the Wizards side, Paulie.
Yeah, so, we're waiting on the Mo Wagner news. If he's out, they're just super short-handed again. But is Jordan McRae officially ruled out, by the way, CK?
Yeah, McRae underwent finger surgery to miss at least 2 weeks.
Okay. I don't know why none of the projection systems have like zeroed him out yet. Yeah. I think because it like hasn't officially been put out there or something.
Yeah,
I don't
it
really
came
know.
out today at about 3:46 that McRae underwent finger surgery to miss at least 2 weeks. So
okay, so that was another guy getting around 20 minutes that's gone, right? So we realistically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including Wagner, guys that should get minutes. If Wagner's ruled out, they're so thin and they're all just kind of in play. And it's, if they keep the game close, that thin, you're going to want 3, 4, 5 Wizards in a lineup. Brad Beal, obviously, is going to get major usage. Then Rui Hachimura and Bertans, the only real bigs they have. If Wagner plays, I think I would get around the same exposure to all 3, wanting to pair them up in some spots. I think like Wagner and Hatch would be more likely to get blowout run, where Bertans, I don't think he'd get a ton. And then with McRae out, that really makes the guard situation a lot easier. Like Thomas in more of the close game builds, and then Ish Smith and Troy Brown in all scenarios, because they're so cheap. They're both guys that can get aggressive, and they're losing one of the bigger usage guys on the second unit in McRae. So Ish and Troy Brown should both see pretty large usage boosts when they're on the court. Potential to see blowout run and more minutes in usage than normal, or just in a close game, they should get pretty decent minutes because of how thin they are, especially if Mo Wagner's out. So I like all 7 guys: Beal, Wagner, Bertans, Hachimura, IT2, Ish Smith, and Troy Brown. And if Wagner's out, I'll like all of them a tad more, but a little more specific to the build. Like Brad Beal won't really get many lineups with Ish Smith, because I don't see, if the game gets out of hand, they're probably going to rest Beal pretty quickly. I think they play tomorrow. I think I told you that earlier, but I'll confirm. But I'm pretty sure they have a game tomorrow too, which, if this game gets out of hand, they may be a little quicker on the trigger to pull a guy like Beal and IT2. Yeah, they play the Heat tomorrow, so that's another thing to keep in mind. But I like them all. The Wagner news is looming, and it just comes down to game flows. But I'm going to have quite a bit of them, just in different kind of scripts.
I think it makes sense. I too, you almost want to start with the cheapest guys first. I hope Wagner's out, because if Wagner plays, he could definitely smash against Philly. He's the type of player that could. It's just the defensive end, man. He's just a foul machine. Dude constantly fouls guys, and then you're on a debate. He may only get 20 minutes anyway. When he played Philly in the preseason, and I know it's the preseason, he had 5 fouls in 12 minutes. He put up 20 DraftKings points in 12 minutes, but he had 5 fouls along the way. So there's that whole conflict of like shit, because like he could potentially foul if he's in. Maybe that lowers the ownership of Bertans and Hachimura just a little bit. Now, not saying they're going to be low owned, but maybe it lowers them just a little bit because, like you said, now you got to split them between all these guys. And
Yep. And the way Philly runs their rotations, they actually take Embiid out pretty early in the first, and he kind of gets minutes against most teams' second units at the beginning of the second quarter. So if Wagner's playing and not starting,
well,
he's going to see a bunch of Embiid.
We just got that news. So Mo Wagner will play.
Oh.
And here's another one for you. Ian Mahimi. Ian Mahimi, I can never say his name right, is also available to play. So he hasn't played. I don't know. When's the last time he's played?
He hasn't played this season at all, I think. He's been injured.
Yeah, you are correct. He has not played one game this year. All right, phenomenal. But so they're not as thin with the bigs as they were. They're still, they're thin in terms of quality players. Hachimura is like 6'8". He's not a center. He's not supposed to be playing center. Does this change? What does Mahimini's presence change for you?
I didn't catch all that. What was the deal with Wagner?
Wagner's gonna play.
Gonna play. Okay. I can't imagine them playing Mahimi more than 15 minutes, but he's actually a legit center and he's min price, and like if he hadn't been injured and this is his first game back, I'd be really into him.
Oh yeah,
but
playing the shit out of him.
He's decent when he gets minutes. I just don't think he'll get enough to really do more than 6x today, and that might be fine. I'll probably get like 5% of him, because if they get blown out, they're not going to run him out there because there's no way he's in shape, and he's been out since training camp with an Achilles. Like I don't think they want to play him. I think they just have to, have the body for emergencies. So I just can't envision them playing him enough minutes, but it really doesn't change much for me. The fact that Wagner's in just kind of lowers my exposure on Bertans and Hachimura because now we got the 3 there, and pretty much the same thing though. Like more game scripting, Beal in IT2 in more close game builds with everyone, however you want to distribute it, and then take Beal and IT2 out, and pretty much everyone else is fine for the blowout build.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Wagner situation, him playing, you have to have some because he's going to be popular, and if you don't have any, your night could be over quick. But I still think I'm going to make sure to have plenty of Bertans and Hachimura, like you said, because there's definitely a possibility that there's a world where he fouls out, and those guys get the run anyway.
And he's not even that cheap. I mean, I don't know what he is on FanDuel, but 5.5, like
he's like 4.8 over there.
Game.
He's like, but he's such a high point per minute player. It's just unlikely that if he were to get 27 to 30 minutes, it's just so unlikely he wouldn't return you 6x on that price because, and he's got the ceiling, right? Like that's something he's got.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like that's really like the issue. 7s and 30s. But going back to the Washington side, like, there comes a point where with McRae out and all this stuff, like it comes a point where even in a blowout, some of these guys might have to play, man. I think Troy Brown at 3,600 is definitely interesting. They don't seem to love that Bonga dude. Now Bertans could get bumped up a little bit, play some time at the 3, and that could take away some because they could, we could see some Wagner, Hachimura, Bertans lineups. So we could see that type of deal run with Beal and Isaiah. So, with Wagner in, I don't think Brown is as much of a value play that I was going to rely on him a lot. Now I still play him, but maybe not as much. It's like you lose one, you get 2 more. It's kind of that situation, right?
He's like more blowout build viable than close game viable, I'd say now.
Right. So how much would you say as of right now? Like, give me a range of like Bertans of those 3 bigs. I know Mahimini, you said more like 5%, but the 3 bigs for Washington, like what is your range?
So I would say that all of them closely together in ownership, but me personally, I'm gonna have more Hachimura than out of those three, and probably like 35 to 40 Hachimura and like 25 to 35 Bertans and Mo Wagner, because I don't think any of them are going to be more than 40 today. So I don't think you need to get that crazy. And I have a hard time really making like if you put a gun in my head and said pick which one's going to have the highest raw score, I wouldn't be very confident about my decision. It's, I think Hachimura will be the lowest owned of the three, and that's why I like him the most. I think he'll get the most minutes of the three, and I think he'll play blowout time too. So I feel like he's a little safer. Like, Wagner was questionable, so like, why would you push him if the game's out of hand? And Bertan's just not a guy I think will get a ton of minutes in a blowout. So
right.
I'd say Hachimura and then Bertans and Wagner pretty similar, around 30-ish.
Makes sense. Let's go to the next game, Paulie. We've got the Denver Nuggets visiting our beloved New York Knicks. The spread in this game opened up at -8. It's up to Denver -9.5. Total is 203, lowest on the slate by far. These are two teams that play slow. The Knicks are horrible offensively. Denver's really good defensively. The only plus for the Knicks is their defense has been a little better than we've seen, particularly against bigs. Paulie, what do you like here?
That's like shifted dramatically in the last like 2 weeks. I think that has to do with what's his name, Mitchell Robinson, missing a few games, I think, for illness or an injury, and then getting into foul trouble. Mm-hmm. I think he's like the reason that they've actually been pretty bad against bigs in the last like 2 weeks, and guards have been killing them.
Yeah, guards for sure. Guards have definitely been killing them, especially with Nitty out. Yeah. With Nitty out, forget about it. Like, DSJ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, DSJ. So the Knicks, I'll
start with the Denver side.
Yeah. It's very similar to the first game. Like, this one, I'm the most expecting a Denver blowout because they're a very good Western Conference team, and the Knicks are just not good, right? Like, they have some nice, talented players, but they've only been playing with each other for 6 weeks, and they just aren't that good right now. They don't have great coaching. It's bad, right? The only positive is Denver's on the road, and you never know, right? From the Denver side, again, it's like Jokic and Murray, are more like for close game and stacks, right? Because I don't see Jokic getting enough minutes if they kill the Knicks. So Jokic and Murray are similar to like BLIT2. Barton is cheap enough, I think, and could get blowout run. Where I'll play him regardless of the script. Same for Gary Harris. Same for Millsap, although much less of him. He seems to be losing minutes to like Plumlee and Jeremy Grant. And then I think on a 4-game slate, building multiple teams like Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant, Monty Morris, Malik Beasley, these guys that are on the second unit, if the game does get out of hand, will get multiple, additional minutes at higher usages against a terrible team, are worth taking shots on, that are going to be really low owned, and they kind of like, stacking them together because they fit the same script allows you access to James Harden and other, stars and scrubs build. If you do like a Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant, Monty Morris 3-man stack, totally, following the blowout build, and it happens and they all like 6-7x their prices, and you have Harden who goes for 80, like that could be a winning build tonight. So it's essentially the same way I'm treating Philly. Like, the studs only really in game stacks, and then from Will Barton down to Malik Beasley, Monty Morris, Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Gary Harris, and a little bit of Paul Millsap. I'll have them in either kind of game script and playing them in bunches because I think if the flow goes that direction, they all could really crush their prices.
Yeah, it's a similar situation, right, to the game, except Washington at least plays fast. On the Denver side, Jokic is fine. I find myself not wanting to pay that price. I like you, am more interested, I think, in Barton, Jamal Murray. I think those are the positions. Frank Nitty could impact that a little bit for me. If Frank Nitty plays, then Barton will be like a clear above. I would just assume he would cover what's his name, Murray more. So, but in the
Murray,
meantime,
yeah.
they're both in that mid range. I like them both for that more balanced kind of build. Again, guys that can hit the 40 or whatever we need them to hit, even in a game where their team blows them out. Maybe they're the ones doing the blowing, as we like to say. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I also like Millsap. Like you said, I think I'm more likely to play Millsap because he's cheaper. He's 4,900. Like this guy, he's gonna have a matchup with Julius Randle in the beginning, which is like, we know, as much as we love Julius Randle, he is not a good defender whatsoever. I think that he's gonna have his hands full trying to cover Millsap. At the same time, don't get me wrong, on the offensive end, when Randle's not shooting bricks, he's making shots. You know, it's like that's just how it goes, man. You know.
Yeah.
With that said, Gary Harris, certainly an interesting value play. He's been like horrible this year, like no production, but he's really cheap, really cheap, very cheap. But that's basically it for me. I don't want to get too tied in a game with a 203 total. And take me to the Knicks side.
Yeah, so, the Knicks are interesting. We never know what's going to happen with the Knicks. Certainly would like to get the, Frank Ntilikina, Elfrid Payton even news, although I don't think he'll be much of a factor. And then Marcus Morris, who's probable, I believe, to play. If like Nitty and Morris are out, then, other things are become much better plays, like Dennis Smith Jr. once again, Damian Dotson, Kevin Knox. But if, Morris plays and Nitty, it's if you're playing some Jokic and Jamal Murray, then I think it makes sense to run like Julius Randle, Marcus Morris, and like an RJ Barrett or a Nitty if he plays. If Nitty's out and you still want to try that build, then it's Dennis Smith Jr. with RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Marcus Morris. And then, there's like blowout build guys like Bobby Portis, Mitchell Robinson fits either script, Damian Dotson, Kevin Knox, all I think are viable. And honestly, guys, I'm a little more interested in because I'm expecting this game to blow out. But, I'm hoping it doesn't because I'll have both ends covered. And, a Knicks Denver stack will certainly be very, very low owned. And, if we happen to get, the other day, no one thought the Spurs were going to hang with the Rockets and they went to double overtime and won. So you never know. You never want to predict outcomes, and that's why MME is so great because you can cover all those angles.
Yeah, the problem with the Knicks, we got to get some of this news. They have like 3 players that could be coming back today. Frank Nitty being one of them. Marcus Morris we're expecting back. Elfrid Payton could be back today. So I'm curious to see what it looks like. We know that this is a coach that's been known to play the hot hand, and I know that there's not one player on this team right now that's had a hot hand. And in the last couple of weeks, they've just been fucking bad. With that said, I think on DraftKings, Marcus Morris is underpriced. If he's a full go, this is a guy that's playing. He's like him and Randall are like the 2 leading scorers on the team. Like this dude is playing, and he's a big offensive option for them. So on top of that, even on a matchup basis, the 3 is one of the places you do want to attack Denver, a pretty good defensive team. That and center. So I am interested in Marcus Morris. I am interested in Mitchell Robinson. Marcus Morris, I have more interest in on DraftKings because he's only 5K. I think that's just low. This is a guy that has potential to go for 40 just because of how many threes he's taken a game, and he's 5K. Like, he gives you a 30, you're good. And to me, that just seems like what do you think his floor is today? Like 25? Marcus Morris?
Who, Marcus Morris?
Right. Like, assuming he gets like 33 minutes, let's say.
Yeah, probably like 22, 25 if he shoots terribly, but he's shot great all year.
Right.
And his usage is high.
A mediocre day
even when he's not
is 6X, right? If he has a mediocre day. His floor is like he just went out there and was awful, which is possible, but say he gives you a mediocre day, that's already 6X. He goes out there and balls like he's done a couple times. Now you're really cooking. You're really cooking. So I do like him. I like Mitch Robinson. Denver is not good against centers. Like, Jokic is not a good defender. The problem, of course, with Mitch, last year he saw Denver, he had 4 fouls in 23 minutes. But he went for 31 DraftKings points, which, again, that covers you at his price. So those are the main 2 Knicks I'm looking at. Maybe a little bit of Julius Randle, but I do respect Paul Millsap's defense, so I'm not, like, obsessed with it. But it's a 4-game slate, right? So, like, why not have a little sprinkle, Mr. Julius? Julius Randle.
Sprinkles. I'm playing him.
Sprinkles, let's go.
He's cheap.
I know you're playing him, bro. I think the whole nation knows you're playing him, man. You've been playing. That dude owes you.
Yeah.
He owes you some money. He came through. He did come through big for you once, though. He did. He was very low owned, and he just balled.
The rest of my exposures didn't that.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody else let you down, but it wasn't him that day, bro. Nah, not you. Not you.
Me.
Let's go to the next game. We've got this is one of the games of the night, right? We got the Houston Rockets visiting the Toronto Raptors. The total in this game opened up at 230. It's up to 231. The Rockets opened up as 1.5-point underdogs. They are still underdogs. It's now 2-point underdogs. The Rockets are protesting that overtime game because James Harden made a dunk that went through, came back up, and the refs didn't count it. Anyway. With that said, Paulie, the dual house is the main injury thing we're waiting for here from the Rockets. Talk to me about the Rockets.
Yeah, and that's one of the bigger pieces for me. This is my favorite game of the night. 1-point spread. Toronto plays very fast, especially off of missed shots, right? So Harden, Westbrook going to take a million threes. The whole Rockets team, they're going to miss a ton of them, and that's going to spark fast breaks going the other way, and Houston's just going to have to keep up scoring. So I think this game could go to the moon. The Rockets are tough. The house news is important. Like that double overtime game, 6 players played minutes. That's it, right? So, the Rockets are extremely attractive for that reason because they play more minutes than everyone else. The hard thing is just after Harden, no one's really that appealing at their price. Russ and Capella, I'll have probably 25% of each. Harden, I'm going to just, I think, force 40 because I have enough, value combination game stack, like the 3 Denver guys I talked about or a couple of Philly guys that I can, get these contrarian stars and scrub builds that a couple things go my way and Harden balls out at low ownership. It could be really valuable. If House is in, then I like House. McLemore and Rivers not as much. A little bit of Tucker. If a House is out, then I like Tucker, McLemore, Rivers, and even we'll have a sprinkle of Isaiah Hartenstein and Gary Clark because, they just don't have many bodies and they may need somebody. Maybe Capella gets into foul trouble and that opens up some Hartenstein minutes. Toronto has some size. So I'm going to just kind of force 40% Harden because I expect him to be, let's see what he's projecting at right now. He's projecting at 20%, so I'll be double the field at 40, and I could see him being lower just because there isn't any value at the moment. If value opens up, he'll definitely be higher. Russ and Capella I just think are expensive. They're more game stack guys because if they're going to, smash their price, then the game is being awesome, going overtime, whatnot. But Tucker, House, McLemore, those are the 3 at their prices, at the minutes they're going to get that, are the Rockets that are easy to play or pair with Harden. So like this game the most, we'll kind of just be forcing exposure to it. And, James Harden, I plan to be over the field on. And maybe I'll get more of him depending what the projections show, closer to lock because he's on a fucking tear. I think he scored 60 2 games ago and then 50. And he didn't even really shoot great the last game. And the dude's just a fucking beast. And, he's the one you want.
Yeah, it's funny, right? It's one of the most attractive games on a slate. Obviously, I think the Toronto side, there's more players that we'll be into. But I find myself really only liking Harden. And like you said, if House is in, sure, I'll grab some of him. If he's out, I'll like McLemore a lot more. He'll pop a lot more. But in the meantime, you look at his team, and I'm with you. Westbrook, more of a game stack situation. If I'm going to game stack this game, hope it goes to OT, all that, yeah, I'll grab Westbrook in that scenario. Otherwise, you're pretty much trying to get as much Harden as you can. And he's, again, like you said, as of right now, he's projected to go pretty low. On a 4-game slate, I don't care what price it is. On a 4-game slate, if there's only one true stud, that dude is 50-60% every day. It's just the way the pricing worked out. And on FanDuel, because everybody's kind of overpriced anyway, Harden will be more, I think, this is one of the rare occasions, he'll be more owned over there, I think, on FanDuel. But
Yeah, because you can get to him.
Right. And it's not worth it to not because the other guys are overpriced too. So it's why wouldn't I just get him? So it's an
Yeah.
interesting way to
Well,
approach it, but I always find that when Harden's low owned, it's a better idea to be overweight than underweight. So I like that idea, and we may get more value to make it easier. House could help. I like the idea of playing Macklemore or something like that with him, even though he's not super cheap. But again, you can live in this mid range. It's you. All you really need is like one or two key value pieces, and you can reach them. So I'll have some balance builds, but I'll have some where I force Harden in as well. Outside of that, like I said, unless injury changes things, I'm not terribly interested outside of like game stacks. Let's go to the Toronto side of the ball. What do you like from Toronto?
I like a lot. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and to those two are like some of my favorite plays on the slate. Where they're priced, just ridiculous. The pace of the game, the poor defense of Houston, their current roles, just way too cheap for if this game's close, what they're going to do. Siakam, don't love his price, but Houston doesn't really have much size, and he's just really good. I do think Lowry back hurts his usage a tad, but again, if this game's close, he's going to be a big part of it, and I don't think he'll be that popular. Although, let's see what his projection is. Yeah, 20%. So, plan to be over just because it's my favorite game, and you can still get Harden, VanVleet, Lowry, or obviously Ibaka and Anunoby, who I like both very equally. Norm Powell as well. And that's as far as I think I go. Marc Gasol's price is so tempting, and maybe I will get 5% because even if he just gets 25, it's worth it. But I really I don't know. I don't think that guy's that good anymore. But Ibaka, Anunoby, Powell, Siakam are all 25 to 35% ownership for me, and Lowry and VanVleet will be between 40 and 50, some of my most exposed players.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think Lowry and VanVleet are both on DraftKings just awesome. The pricing is just real low. It's just very surprising to see them that low. One of the better pace boosts on the spot. Rockets are one of the fastest teams in the league. They may be the fastest now after that overtime game as far as possession goes. I know they have more possessions because of that game. But with that said, yeah, I love VanVleet. I love Lowry. Siakam, sure. I think OG, like you said, and in the center situation, it's tough. I kind of prefer Ibaka just because I know how much, Capella's big, but he's not that kind of big where Ibaka couldn't handle him. So if they wanted to be able to keep up with pace, Ibaka would, I think, fit that better. So I like Ibaka a little bit more, but again, on a 4-game slate, if you're playing the amount of teams you should, then you should be able to get a little bit of Gasol because the price is very, very, very low. And it's not like Capella's some great defender, so I can get behind that. But Lowry and VanVleet for sure. I'm going to have a lot of them. Absolutely. Let's go over to the last game of the night, Paul. We got the Phoenix Suns visiting the New Orleans. I was told that's how you say it from New Orleans people is New Orleans. Pelicans. The total in this game opened up at 232. It's up to 235.5. It's risen 3.5 points. The line opened up New Orleans -3. It's up to New Orleans -4 at home against the Suns, who played yesterday in Orlando, started off whooping ass, and ended up getting destroyed in that game. Derek Favors for the New Orleans side is questionable. He's been out due to a sore back, and then unfortunately lost his mother, so he was out for that. It's questionable to make his return today. Aaron Baines is doubtful. We're expecting him to get ruled out. And then there's Kenrich Williams, who's questionable, but they think may play. So we have a couple pieces that we're missing from here. This is the last game of the night, 8 p.m. Eastern start. Paulie D, what do you got for me today? What are the plays?
Yeah, so, just a super attractive game, pace, lack of defense. In Phoenix, I think they're, trying to make Booker super attractive, and, he feels a little bit like a trap to me. I expect him to be pretty popular. He's my least favorite Sun. I mean, I'm still always going to get exposure to him because, when he's hot, he's one of the best shooters in the NBA, and, we've seen his ceiling before. But this team, with the addition of Rubio and the emergence of Oubre, midseason trade last year, has dropped his usage. And I don't know if his price is even, to where it should be on a day-to-day basis. This game, the pace and poor defense of New Orleans, he should get the value. But I like Oubre and Rubio a bit more. I'm expecting Baines to be out, so that makes Saric and Czech Diallo and Frank Kaminsky very attractive. Revenge spot for Diallo. You already played him this year. Didn't do very well, but he's been playing super, super well. And, there are a couple guys with size on New Orleans that they may want him for. And I think they're just, respecting the way he's played and giving him more and more time. Couple other pieces you could consider on Phoenix is Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. I'd rather not have to choose between those two and just have one available, but they're both available today. I guess I side with Mikal Bridges. He just seems to be getting a little more minutes right now, but the core guys for me are going to be Oubre, Rubio, Saric, Diallo, and Kaminsky, and I'll obviously have some Booker and Mikal Bridges and maybe some Cam Johnson. But I like this side, but, I like the New Orleans side better, and, not super confident Phoenix hangs in. I think they're hitting a slump, and, things are ugly.
Oh, they hit it hard, real hard. So with Baines being out, I think Kaminsky and Saric are two guys we can look at again. Kaminsky should be a little more popular because, number one, he's cheaper. Number two, he just balled in the last game. Despite the blowout, he had a great game yesterday. He was just on fire, couldn't miss. I do think that, right now those are the main guys playing center. One thing about Phoenix that I did like is their rotation's been really tight lately. Yesterday, Czech Diallo was a core play for me, and I'll be the first one to tell you I got lucky as shit. That game blew out. That's the only reason Czech Diallo got minutes, because he got 3 minutes in the first half. They were not going to play that dude in a serious situation. So, with that said, I was impressed that Phoenix played the rotation so tight. Like you said, they're struggling really hard, so they're trying to keep the ball in their best players' hands. I think the game blew out. Guys didn't hit their minute expectations. But in this game, if you think it could stay close, and I think it can, I think there is blowout potential. But if you think it can, the Suns are kind of underpriced. They have one of the best pace boosts on the slate. They have a great matchup. The issue is, like Paulie said, they've been playing terribly no matter who they're playing. Ricky Rubio is very cheap. I'll have a good chunk of him. This is like the perfect game stack game for that balanced game stack. Just let it go at it. There's phenomenal plays on both ends. Starting with the Kaminsky-Saric situation, because that's where, assuming Baines is out again, that's where they're thin. As far as the other guys you'd mentioned, Cam Johnson and Bridges, I think is really in the rotation. I think that's a guy that even situationally they'll use. Maybe Oubre gets into foul trouble and Bridges has to guard Ingram or something like that. You could see that scenario happening. So he'd probably be my favorite one. I agree with you that the plays on the other side of the ball seem a little more attractive, but I'm going to have a good, healthy exposure to this game, to Devin Booker, to Rubio, Kaminsky, maybe Saric. I just have to debate that price, but I'm going to grab a good chunk. I do like this game. I am fully aware and very worried about the blowout just because of how bad the Suns have been. But, and not just that, but New Orleans could just as easily get blown out. These are two teams that can get blown out or blow out anybody on any given day. That's just that's just what these guys are.
Yeah.
But I'll have a good chunk. Take me over to New Orleans.
Yeah. I like the New Orleans side better, but more so I like stacking this game because, the spread's tight, two bad teams play fast, bad defense. This game should go to the moon, and, love Drew Holiday's price, love Lonzo Ball's price, love the way Brandon Ingram's been playing. Then it's I need to know what's the deal with Derek Favors and Kenrich Williams. If Kenrich Williams is in and Favors is out, love Kenrich Williams at 3,600 against a undersized Phoenix team. Kenrich Williams is a very good rebounder. If Kenrich Williams is also out, then Jackson Hayes and Nicolo Melli become just very good, super cheap plays. If Favors is in, then, I'm a little stuck with the bigs. I think I get a tad of exposure to Favors, although I'm not a fan of playing him first game back from injury, even in a good spot. I'm just hoping he's out. And if he's also out, then Josh Hart, seems like a very solid underpriced play at 4,500. JJ Redick at 4,800 I like a lot. Like them all. It's just which ones, depending on Favors and Kenrich Williams' status, how deep I'll go. If Williams and Favors are both in, even if just Kenrich Williams is in, I'm probably not playing a ton of Melly, right? But if they're both in, Favors and Williams, not playing him at all. If Favors is in, I'm probably not playing Jackson Hayes much. But if Favors is out, I'll play him quite a bit. But Reddick, Hart, Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday, and Ingram, I'll have a lot of, regardless of who's in and out.
You hit it right in the head, man. If Favors is in, if Favors is in and we thought he was going to get even 25 minutes, I'd play the shit out of him. In this spot, he would just smoke. It's so bad against centers, so bad. But if he gets ruled in, we don't hear anything. He had a back issue, that's why he was out. Then he's missed time for the personal reasons. You wonder about a minute limitation. Obviously, when we saw him really smash, that was when Ingram was out. So there's a usage issue as well. But his price is low enough to where it's definitely worth the risk. If he's in, I'm playing him. I'm not gonna go I don't know how crazy I can go unless I hear there's no restriction. But I don't see how he doesn't just beat up. He could be the reason if he plays. He could be the reason the Suns get blown out. He could just do it himself. They just can't stop the guy. With that said, Brandon Ingram, Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, like you said, phenomenal plays. If Kenrich is out, I will like Josh Hart more. I do like Josh Hart, but I like him a lot more if Kenrich is out again. I know he disappointed us last time, but I'm not going to let that discourage me. Ian Mahimi will be on a minutes limit as we expected. But yeah, this is a game I'm gonna make sure to have some game stacks of. I'm gonna have a good healthy exposure to a lot of guys in this game in general. I didn't mention Kelly Oubre for the Suns. Like him more on DraftKings, but I will grab some. Yum yum. Get you some. With that said, Nation, if you have any questions, go into the Wisestream chat, ask away. If you are a WiseTake Nation subscriber, we will get through your questions first. If we have time and your questions are taken care of, we'll flip it over to the YouTube chat and see if there's any questions. In the meantime, Paul, we're going to do some top threes. We'll go positions, top three guards, forwards, centers, because it's a small slate. Top three guards.
James Harden. What's his name? Kyle Lowry and Ish Smith.
I'll go with Van Fleet, Kyle Lowry. I'll go with James Harden with you. Top three forwards.
Forwards is going to be Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, and Ingram.
Yeah, I like that. I will go with I'll go with James Enos for value. I will go with Marcus Morris. On more of a DraftKings deal. Brandon Ingram on both sides. I could dig it. Centers.
All right. Rui Hachimura, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I'll go with Mo Wagner. I'll go with Joel Embiid, and I'll go with Al Horford. I'll sneak him in there because I could do that like that. Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions in the Wisestream page. Don't see any questions on the YouTube because we're just thorough like that. We're just two thorough ass motherfuckers who, by the time we're done breaking down the slate, there's just no questions because thorough.
You got all the answers.
Got all the answers. You got the questions. How do we do it? I don't know. How do we do it? I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button, the thumbs up, man. It allows us to continue to do these. As many likes as possible is the goal. Got some cool things that we're discussing coming up in the near future. WiseTake Nation. I'll catch you guys in the Slack. Those of you who are subscribed. Core Plays article will be out shortly after the show. Paulie D's cheat sheet. No cheat sheet today. It's just my Core Plays article. My bad. I think Stevie Brown's doing the article today. Is the Slate Breakdown article up? Slate Breakdown article should be up. Unless Stevie's running late. No, it's not up yet.
I'll check.
It's not up yet. Maybe.
No? He's slacking?
Slacking on the Mac. He's probably waiting on the news, yeah. Yeah. More than likely.
Yeah.
With that said, Paulie, anything to close before we get up out of here?
Nope. Build a lot of teams, do the dirty, cover all the angles. Good luck.
We got one question here from Cody Mayfield. Is Harden a lock on FanDuel?
What's his price?
Fandesius Maximus. James Hardone is 12-2.
Yes, he is.
Boom. 30s and 7s. That's how that's done right there. Ed, we love you too. Ed Pink says, I love you guys. We love you too. You know what it is. We get love, we give love. That's how the world works. You give some, you get some, right? With that said, we're going to get up out of here. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yes.